Let's talk about money. I don't know why I was about to say, let's get physical. Like Michael Scott, let's get ethical. Let's get financial doesn't really work. It works for a great lesson though. My name is Megan. I have been an ESL teacher in China for the past 10 years. I'm also getting my PhD in education. And if you're looking for a new ESL lesson plan, I got you. This one is so fun. I genuinely look forward to it every year that I teach it because who doesn't love talking about money? I also find that this is a topic I really like to talk about with my students because I like teaching them things that are beyond just practicing English. I want them to think about their financial future. I want them to think about good habits like saving money and budgeting and negotiating for a raise. So if I can put that in my lesson, you bet you I will. Okay, here is my full money ESL lesson plan. You can copy and paste this for your own lessons, or you can change it and adapt it according to what will best fit your students. First, we need a warm-up, and this is one of my favorite type of warm-up activities. I call this my off the top of your head warm-up, which usually I have to teach that to the students, which is fun to learn a new phrase. But in this exercise, I tell them that I'm going to show them 5 sentences on the board, and I want them to complete the sentence with the first thing that pops into their head. They're not allowed to think about it. They're not allowed to consider, just write. As soon as you see that question, just write down your answer. So here are the 5 sentences that I ask them. Number 1, saving money is. Number 2, spending money is. Number 3, my parents taught me that money is. Number 4, talking with other people about money is. And number 5, people who are rich are. I give the students a few seconds after each sentence, that way they can think and they can write in their answer. But then once we finished all 5 sentences, I tell them to turn to their partner and have a conversation about their answers. I tell them that they should share their answers and explain why they wrote that. And it's so fun because students generally assume that their partner is going to have a similar answer, and it's hilarious to see how many times the answers are exact opposites. Like they'll say that saving money is important, and other people will say that saving money is impossible. Other people will say that people who are rich are hardworking, and other people will say that they're lazy because in their mind they just inherited their wealth. And so it's a really fun conversation starter, and it really keeps the vibes high from the very beginning of the class. It also reveals some deeper money beliefs. After we finish the warm-up, I usually move into vocabulary and then any of the textbook exercises that they have. Now, this might look totally different for you depending on what your classes are like. You might have different vocabulary than I would have. Maybe your textbook has some listening materials, some reading materials, some fill in the blank, some questions, some grammar exercises. Whatever you need to do, this is your time where you can really hone in on the vocabulary, the grammar, the listening, all of those skills. After you finished all of your textbook material, let's go back to speaking, and here is where I have students discuss earning versus saving. And I ask them, do you want to be rich? They all say yes. And I ask them, is it easy to be rich? And they all say, actually, they say a variety of answers. Some say yes, some say no. But then I tell them that there are basically 2 ways to build wealth. And I pause for a second. Then I show them. Number 1, earn more money. Number 2, save more money. And they all kind of chuckle at how easy it is because, I mean, it's kind of true. That is how you make money. You either bring more money in or you save more money. Then I ask them 2 questions. Number 1, how much money did you spend yesterday? And I give them a second to like make their little calculations. And the second question I ask them is, how much did you earn yesterday? To kind of introduce this topic. If you want to build wealth, you've got to bring more money in and keep it as well. So I ask the students to have a conversation with their partner, and I ask them to write down 5 ways that they can make more money in the future. and 5 ways they can save more money in the future. Now, I teach at a university, so most of my students in China actually still are under their parents' financial bubble. A lot of times the parents will send them monthly allowances, so they don't have that much money, but they do have a little bit that they can work with. If you want, you could add something like in the future to really broaden the scope. And they'll answer things like, in the future, maybe they could get a part-time job, or in the future, maybe they can negotiate for a raise to make more money. In the future, even though they're not buying their own groceries now, maybe they could be wiser with their grocery decisions. This is a really great way for students to kind of ease into the topic, have some simple discussions, and also learn some really common daily vocabulary and have a chance to use it. After they've finished talking, I usually ask them, which one is easier? Is it easier to make more money or save more money? Now, for them as students who don't have jobs, they say right now it's easier for them to just save more money. But then we talk about how in the future, it's much easier to make more money because you can only save so much each month. You still have to pay your rent, you still have to buy food, you can only save so much. Because I teach university students, and even if I taught younger students, like high school students, I would want them to start thinking about the options that lay ahead of them for their financial future. The next speaking exercise I have them do is talk about their financial dreams. And I ask them to consider their financial dreams. So something I find works really well is I will give them these 2 questions and give them a moment to kind of jot down their ideas and think of their ideas first, then turn to their partner and share their ideas with their partner, because I still want them to be practicing their speaking. But for these, sometimes students need a moment of reflection to answer these 2 questions. The 2 questions I ask are, number 1, what do you want your salary to be in the future? Like, what is your dream salary? And I tell them to be slightly realistic. I mean, you're always gonna have the student who says something like, I want $1 million a minute. But realistically, what's your dream salary? What is your ideal salary? The second question I ask them is, what type of things do you want to be able to afford in your lifetime? And this is something I find students have never really thought about before. And I give them a few examples. For example, in your dream life, your ideal future, maybe you want to travel 2 or 3 times a year. Guess what? That costs money. Maybe you really care about your health and fitness and you want to have a gym membership. That costs money. Maybe you want to have a dog in the future. Okay, that costs money. Maybe you want to have a specific car. Maybe you want to live in a specific city. Maybe you want to have a specific sized house. All of that costs money. And if you are detailed enough, you can literally write out your dream life and the corresponding costs for your dream life. I do this as a way to practice more like daily conversational vocabulary. But like I said, I also really want my students to start thinking about their financial future. For my university students, many of them are about to graduate and they're looking at job opportunities and they're looking at job offers. And if they want to be able to send money home to their family or help pay for their little brother or little sister's schooling in the future, if they have a dream of traveling or taking extra tennis lessons or taking Korean lessons, all of that costs money. So I have students write down 5 to 10 things they would like to be able to afford in the future. Then after they've had a minute to think, I'll have them turn to their partner and share their ideas. I also tell them that, maybe you can get some ideas from your partner. Maybe your partner has something that you want to add to your list as well. For your homework, there are so many things you could do about money. And also, you could turn any of these homework activities into speaking activities if you needed it. That would totally work. The first thing I really love to ask is, what is one thing you regret buying And one thing that you will never regret buying. This is such a fun question because you'll get a variety of answers, and I find that this really mimics our natural conversation. We often talk about the things that we buy, the things that we regret, the quality of things. They have a great chance to use adjectives when describing how they feel about this item, or how they felt when they bought it, or how they feel after they received it. Another thing you could have students do is make a budget for their spending. Maybe your students are like mine and they don't have a ton of money, but maybe they have their weekly allowance or their monthly allowance. You could ask them to make a budget for their money that they have. Along with that, you could ask students to track their spending for 1 week. And this can be a great way to learn more natural native vocabulary as well. They're going to be writing down the actual items that they bought, or maybe they're writing down the food items and the drink items that they bought. So they actually are going to be able to practice their English with the things that are in their daily life and in their daily environment. If they go to the store and they order an iced matcha, then they have to look up how to say that and write down that they paid so much money for an iced matcha that week. These two are kind of connected to that dream life situation. You could have students compare the cost of living in different cities. You could have this be 2 cities within the same country or in different countries if you wanted to talk a little bit more about culture. I've done this before where I've had students write down the cost of living compared to the city that they are in now and a city that they want to live in. Some of my students are trying to make a decision between staying in Shenzhen, which is a very big modern city, and maybe going back to their hometown that's much smaller. The salary is of course a lot less in their smaller hometown, but of course the cost of living is a lot less as well. I've also found it really interesting to compare 2 different countries. So I'll have students compare the cost of living in Shenzhen with a city in the US, and they are able to learn a little bit more about the culture of whatever country they are comparing it to. And finally, something I like to do a lot of the time is take that final discussion question or conversation and extend it into the homework. So students were able to talk with their partner about 5 to 10 things that they would like to afford. For the homework, have them actually write down those things and an estimated cost. If they said that they really would love to take tennis lessons in the future, have them go online and find out what tennis lessons cost in their city. If they said that they want to travel 2 or 3 times a year, write down an estimate cost for that. If they said that this car is their dream car, okay, well, how much does that car actually cost? If you want to live in this part of town, how much is the average rent in this district or this area of town? And that can be a really practical exercise as well. Like I said, who doesn't like talking about money? My students always love this lesson. They find money really interesting. It's super personal, so they're constantly sharing their own ideas, their own opinions, and the vocabulary just lends itself to be really natural and really practical as well. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments down below. You can like and subscribe to the video. What that does is it just tells YouTube that you enjoyed the video, and so maybe YouTube will push out the video to other teachers who also need ideas. If you need more ideas, you can always check out the website atlasteaching.com, and you can check back here for weekly videos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope your money lesson plan goes well. I'll see you next time.